Atlanta is one of those hidden gems in the South. Good food, good people, once good soccer. They started MLS play in 2017 and was strong right out of the gate, making the playoffs their first year and finishing second for the Supporters' Shield the following season. 2018 was also a golden year for them in the Cup chase, as they won the MLS Cup and brought Atlanta their first professional trophy since the Braves won the World Series in 1995. Just remember that the year before, Atlanta's NFL team collapsed in the most amazing way possible in what should have been their first Super Bowl trophy. The city looked at this championship as a good conciliatory prize. The team was led by Tata Martino and League and Cup MVP Josef Martinez. The following year, the success continues with acquiring Pity Martinez from Argentine powerhouse River Plate for $15 million, and the Five Stripes finished the campaign with a conference championship appearance in the MLS Cup chase, a US Open Cup title, and a Championes Cup win. Pretty much ever since then, the team has been chasing those glory days. Now, Atlanta's strategy to success is a pretty simple one. Spend money on South American stars to dominate the weaker American game. MLS's structure doesn't really allow for heavy international spending. The league does everything it can to keep spending internal, but owner Arthur Blank has some deep pockets. Now, money talks in sports, but the off-field spending has not led to on-field success. If anything, the team got worse. Yes, the South American talent can be leagues above MLS, but it's still a crapshoot. And it seems that all Arthur Blank knows is to spend. He got Atalanta's Alexei Miranchuk in 2024, and the next year he made a big bet on Newcastle winger Miguel Almiron and Middlesbrough striker Emmanuel Latela, a nearly $50 million gamble that has only led to loss after loss after loss. Even with Tata coming back this year on a nostalgia run, Atlanta is only 4 points out of spoon contention coming out of the break. Now, Atlanta is used to suffering in their sports. And in life in general. Their teams tend to go through a regular period of burning to a crisp, just like their city did during the Civil War. But the fans love the team, posting strong attendance numbers even as the players give them trash on the pitch. Honestly, they deserve better. I could gladly talk about how the Verdes are one of the more unique teams in MLS. They have a magnificent stadium and play in a super underrated sports city. Austin, Texas is typically known for its beautiful burnt orange hue, and for being weird. But to call owner Anthony Precourt weird is an insult to Austinites. He is simply a poopy head. And the Verdes are too by proxy. Sure, they have had some on-field success, making it to the final of the US Open Cup in 2025, and playing in the Western Conference Final in 2022, their second year in MLS. But the Verdes typically fly in the zone of irrelevance, and look to contend for the wooden spoon. Currently only 3 points above Atlanta and Kansas City, but they are known as being the child of a situation unique to American sports. Precourt used to own the Columbus Crew, and attempted to relocate them to Austin. Now, relocation is nothing new. It is an act of evil typically reserved for the devil's favorites. Your Stan Kroenkes, Dean Spanoses, David Welkers, Walter O'Malley's, Gluckstern and Burks, Bob Irsay's, Mark Davis's, and because I just want to add him, Tom Brady's of the world. And even the presence of Matthew McConaughey cannot clean off the stain that is Precourt. MLS fans hate him so much they named the wooden spoon in his honor. I wonder what is worse for those Verdes, winning the coveted spoon or receiving a horns down? Probably both. As far as players go, there ain't much to keep an eye on. Especially as star Brandon Vasquez is out for the season and the club got a bunch of Cracker Barrel money to trade away Danny Perea. Everything points to a rebuild year, which is funny considering they made it to the US Cup final the previous year. Moving on. The Queen City is home to a lot of awful sports teams. The Panthers, the Hornets, I think that's it. Anyway, the good teams are typically in Raleigh. But one good team that has taken MLS by storm is Charlotte FC, who has had some of the highest average attendance numbers in the league last year at around 30,000. The problem is they play in a stadium that seats 75,000. So while the numbers are great, the optics are crap. Watching home games feels sad, even though it shouldn't be. What is needed is either a superstar signing or a move to a soccer-specific stadium that can hold 30 to 35,000, as the demand is obviously there. I honestly don't know which one is cheaper though. As far as on-the-field stuff goes, the team is in decent hands. Veteran Wilfried Zaha has come in on loan from Galatasaray alongside former Olympiacos journeyman Pep Biel, who leads the team in scoring and assists. But the player to keep an eye on is Idan Toklamadi. Last year he led the team in scoring and looks to be in the race for first place again. As far as potential goes, he probably will be playing elsewhere in a couple years, as he currently is on par with being a good rotation player for the Championship or even a depth player for the Prem. He's also only 21, and barring injuries, has the opportunity to be really good. Charlotte currently sit around at the midpoint of both conference and league standings, and have what it takes to make a decent cup run. Who knows? Maybe they'll open the top half of the stadium for it. Kinda weird they didn't do that when Messi was there, though. Windy City's soccer team can be best described by two distinct eras. The first era is everything before 2010, and then everything after. Right out of the gate in 1998, their first year, the Men in Red started strong, winning both the MLS Cup and the US Open Cup. And for the first 13 years of their existence, they were a top team. This is the Fire's golden era, to say the least, making 2 more MLS Cup finals, winning 3 of 4 US Open Cups, and gaining both a bronze and silver in CONCACAF. But after 2010, the success stops. While there is a US Open Cup final appearance in 2011 and a string of semi-final appearances, the team experiences a period of absolute lows, 2015 and 2016 being their lowest on the field with back-to-back wooden spoons. The lowest off the field came during the COVID year, where they revealed a new logo that was just god-awful. Everyone, even grandmas, hated the logo. So they changed it the next year to something that fits a little better with the city. But the on-the-field play didn't match the fiery new look and the return to Soldier Field. The thing is, they began the decade finishing in the realm of mediocrity, with 2024 being their most recent race for the spoon. And as far as his current campaign goes, Chicago's had a tough start, but now things are starting to click. They entered the break 5 points behind second place Miami, with a game in hand. The biggest reason for their success has been goal scorer Hugo Kuipers, who is on track to surpass last year's number and might even pursue a new career high. But probably the biggest name for the Fire is yet to come. Poland superstar Robbie Lewandowski. For anyone that doesn't know about Lewandowski, let me just say that he is one of the biggest names out there. He played for top German clubs like Dortmund and Bayern, and he just recently finished a championship run with Barcelona. Yes, he is nearing his 40s, but he is planning on taking his talents to Lake Michigan. Might actually sell out that rust bucket. Okay, editor Sean, speaking up, it just broke that Hugo Kuipers is moving to Mexico. I don't know. Seems like a decent trade-off. Aha, Gary! Cincy is a beautiful city and home to some exquisite sports history. The Reds play baseball there, the Bungles fumble there, and Brandon Sorsby illegally gambled there. But the community loves their Garys, and shows it by bringing in strong attendance numbers at TQL, which is also a beautiful soccer stadium inspired by the Allianz Arena in Munich. The club has its origins playing in the USL, using it as a platform to get into MLS. And obviously it worked. Within 3 years, Cincy was playing and winning in Division II, becoming regular season champions, to getting obliterated in the majors, where they finished last. In fact, the first 3 seasons they played in Division I, they finished last. Even with the expansion teams coming in, the Garys could not hold in their skyline chili. But even as they were faltering, things were falling in place for a historic run. The biggest names to come out of the spoon serving were an American named Brandon Vasquez and an Argentine named Luciano Acosta. In 2022, things start clicking with a mid-table finish. The next year, everything just works. I also forgot to mention another key addition, goalkeeper Roman Celentano. He was picked up in the 2022 MLS draft as the 2nd overall pick. Now normally, MLS draft picks are not going to be superstars. At the best, they are typically good depth players. To get a starting goalkeeper out of the draft is like finding a diamond in Millwall. Not possible. But here it is. It also helps that he developed at one of the best college soccer programs in the United States, Indiana University. Don't believe me? Look at this highlight.
Bennett. Oh, it's Celentano, it's loose! Oh, Celentano, no! 2 big-time saves, still alive, Celentano 3! And Celentano saying I'm the Big Ten Goalkeeper of the Year for a reason! Are you kidding me with those saves?
2023 is the best season that Cincy had, finishing first in the East and first in the league, winning the Supporters' Shield thanks to Acosta and Vasquez's goal scoring, bringing in a combined 38 goals, and Celentano's 14 clean sheets. They also make a semi-final run in the US Open Cup and make it to the conference finals in the MLS Cup chase. The next couple of years are a continuation of that success, with a top 5 finish in the league the following year and a 2nd place league finish the year after. After the break, they're currently about mid-table, vying for a playoff spot. Key players to look at are Evander Ferreira, Kevin Denke, Pavel Bucha, and goalkeeper Celentano. Hopefully they are not like your typical Cincy teams and fumble this too.
Don't know why you wanna treat me this way.
One common trend that I've found while researching these teams is that the clubs that have a long history in MLS typically started off pretty good, then sometimes around the mid-20 teens, fumble the bag. Or at least you think that is the case. The Rapids seem to have a decent history if you look at the numbers, as they are in a summarized list. Third place finishes in the Western Conference/Division in 98 and 2000 look good, but you gotta remember that there were only 12 teams playing in the league. The illusion of success is blinding. I also cannot emphasize enough how odd it is a team that can be only 8 points away from last place and finish runner-up in the MLS Cup chase. The league's early days seem as chaotic as Pac-12 after dark. And while I like chaos, stuff like this would make me wish for relegation. Plus, it is difficult to understand their only MLS Cup win. The top 2 teams in each conference qualified, plus a bunch of wild cards, determined by overall league standing. So the Eastern Conference only had 2 teams qualify for the Cup chase, while the West had 6. And Colorado won the Eastern bracket, and went on to beat the winner of the Western bracket, FC Dallas, who last time I checked played further east than Denver. Might be wrong about that. The team is owned by Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, the Nuggets, and the Avs. They used to play in Denver proper over at Mile High Stadium, but have now been playing at a place called Dick's, in a suburb of Commerce City. Oddly enough, right next to a place called Arsenal. Must make Kroenke think about the North London team he owns as well. Outside of the illusory success, there are 2 seasons outside of their MLS Cup win that are worth remembering. 2016 and 2021. Both saw the Rapids finish second and first in their conference and gain silver medals in the Shield race. The 2016 season is also remembered for the acquisition of Team USA icon Tim Howard. The playoff run in 21 is best remembered for being a one and done. They got FM'd by Portland's Larius Mabiala. Kind of weird to see that happen in real life. Even with the mediocre history, the current team they have would make you think those days were nostalgic. Although I wouldn't be surprised if this is because Kroenke is a bit more focused on the other soccer team he owns. I have spent a bit too much time looking to the history of some of these teams for this video. Mainly because the teams are not that great now, and trying to find current things to talk about them is kind of moot. Columbus's history is crazy enough for them to have their own video, so I'm not going to go into it here. The best way I can summarize it is this. Somewhat okay start, mediocre years with a little blip of victory, 3 really good years, some meh, a cup run, then meh, a cup win, another cup win, in the midst of mediocrity, another cup win, a glorious 2024 season, all of it finishing with another year of mediocrity. Now, Columbus as a city is obviously not used to seeing such ups and downs in their sports, but at least they got a taste of whatever that is. To be fair though, the crew have a good history and the city should be proud of their success. I know Lamar Hunt would be. Their current campaign has not been one to be fond of though, unless you live in Cincy. A rough start in February and March does not help anyone, but the crew were only able to salvage 2 points out of the first 5 games, and the depression turned into mania as they would get big wins against Atlanta, LA Galaxy, and Philly before the low set back in with a 3-game losing skid and 9 goals allowed. The break has been a blessing in many ways for the team that wears Steelers colors in Ohio and gets away with it, for some reason, as they entered the break with a win and might be able to start back up on the mania phase. Plus the second game post break is hell is real. Someone outside of Nashville has to show the Garys who runs things. Gary! Overall, the crew doesn't really have a standout player, at least on the field. It doesn't help that one of them, Wassam Abu Ali, is out for the season due to an MCL tear. Diego Rossi seems to have taken up the mantle to lead, but he's only been able to do so much. Also, on a side note, this team is operated by Jimmy Haslam, notorious owner of the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how you can have such prominent success running one team and yet such disaster running another. Everything the crew touches is just bipolar. Every time I hear the name FC Dallas, I weirdly think of cleaning products in Ziploc bags. The last thing the team that probably wants to affiliate itself with is a family company, especially as the supporters group is called the Beer Guardians. Their immortal enemies are Houston, Austin, and AA. The 2026 season has been a really good start for Los Toros, only losing once in their first 8 games, and have gone into the break winning 4 of their last 5. All this is thanks to a dominant start from Peter Musa and Logan Farrington. Musa was a pickup from Portugal squad Benfica, while Farrington was putting up really good numbers in for USL2 team Ventura County Fusion and was playing for Oregon State. Dallas has a pretty good eye out for talent, and the start of the season is an obvious sign of it. But the player to keep an eye on potentially stealing your heart is Sam Sarver. He spent a few years playing college ball at IU, and was shifting around different USL2 clubs before being drafted by Dallas. His time in MLS Next Pro Max Ultra was bound to get anyone's attention, bringing in 19 goals in 25 appearances. He has potential to be something for Dallas as a late bloomer in the world of soccer development. If nothing comes from him, MLS will forever be given this beautiful highlight that should be printed on t-shirts. As far as what to hate about them, geographic fallacy here, but they are in the vicinity of the stink that is Jerry World.
I want me some glory hole.
To quickly glance over DC United's history as an insult to the team, but it's worth it. They have won the MLS Cup a lot, they had Wayne Rooney play for them, and they are most likely the team Eurosnobs think of when they guffaw at how uncivilized and dirty American soccer is. Teams like DC makes them cling to their Manchester United and Man City jerseys a little too tightly. They have just come off a season winning the glorious wooden spoon, and much was not expected from them this year. And up to mid-April, things were on par. But they have gone into the break only losing once in their last 7 games, where they got wins against Chicago and New York City, not to mention drawing against Nashville and the Red Bull. The signings of Ty Baribo and Luis Montano have provided the much-needed spark for the black and red. Plus, they are helping make soccer fun again in DC, and had a somewhat decent showing in Baltimore against Messi, although that game is bound to cover any potential attendance drops. Right now, they hold one of the wildcard spots, but I don't know if they're really capable of making a deep run in the playoffs. Keep playing as they are, they got a chance to make magic happen. A part of me is still expecting nothing, though. Like Congress.
Oh, this you crazy mother...
Houston has a unique history of relocations. Most notably the beloved Oilers of the AFL and NFL who moved to Tennessee. There was also the NBA's San Diego Rockets who moved into Houston, and the city could have had an NHL team if a different Oilers team was bought out. The story of the Dynamo is another one of those moments. San Jose was given permission to relocate their club to Houston, while leaving name, brand, and history in the Bay Area. The Dynamo started off with a massive explosion, winning back-to-back MLS Cups. They tried to do it again in 2011 and 2012, but pulled the Buffalo Bills and lost. The period after brings a time of mediocrity outside of a couple US Open Cup wins, going 5 straight years without a playoff appearance. 2023 is their most recent pinnacle year, as they made it to the Western Conference Finals and won the US Open Cup with the helps of goal scorers Amina Bassi and Coy Baird, alongside the work of Hector Herrera. 2025 sucked and looked like a rebuild year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they thought going in this season they would be more the same, but that hasn't happened. Houston had an expected start, only winning 2 of their first 6, but they have gone into the break only losing 2 of their last 8, which puts them around mid-table. They hit a hot streak and will look to continue to run their luck against DC and rival Austin, hoping to get revenge in the Copa Tejas. Brazilian winger and designated player Guilherme leads the team in goals and assists as he enters his prime years for La Naranja. La Naranja. La Naranja. Personally, a mid-table finish with a run for the wild card looks to be where they probably will end up if things keep going their way. At the worst, they'll probably get some accusations of clanging trash cans. Oh boy. Time for the one that gets all the attention. David Beckham has the league wrapped around his finger and seems to get away with it because it brings in money. I'm not going to talk about Miami's history because you probably don't care about that. The only thing about this team that you care about is an average-sized goat named Luis Suarez. And I don't know why people keep calling him the GOAT. Personally, I find it offensive. The guy had a biting problem, but what GOAT doesn't? Okay, to be serious, I know that you watch Miami only because of Messi. And good! Watch! Enjoy the time that he will spend playing there because he only has a few more years before he goes to a real retirement league in Argentina. Most likely playing at Boca Juniors, who will then be renamed to Boca Geriátricos. Just be upfront that you're only here for him and nothing else. And once he's gone, Miami will probably lose about 90% of its attendance. Even the diehards are just there for Messi. Supporter group Vice City wanted to start a protest over the team for not acknowledging them. The alleged text from Vice City went viral in the world of MLS Reddit, and it shows a bit of pretentiousness, don't you think? This sort of crybaby attitude is super weird, especially as Miami have won nearly every major MLS trophy available. They're defending MLS Cup champs, they also won the Supporters Shield the year before that, they also won the Leagues Cup with Messi just weeks after he signed. As an NSC fan, I like to forget about it. They also played in FIFA's Club World Cup for some reason, and will be playing in the Champions Cup in September. Sure, the season started a bit rough, especially with getting CONCACAF in the Champions Cup by red-headed stepbrother and perpetual thorn in their side, Nashville, due to an archaic tiebreaker also, which just makes their defeat so much sweeter. It also doesn't help that they didn't have a win in their new home stadium for the first 4 games. The bottling against state rival Orlando City is just mwah! Gave me memories of the 2019 Champions League semi-final. More than likely, they'll finish the season strong and make a deep run for the cup, if not win it. I am not saying this lightly either, as nearly every major player on their team would be getting a designated player contract on any other team, but they are subsidized by MAM, known as Messi allocation money. This is even more prominent now as they are exiting the break with another superstar pickup in former Madrid and Man United star Casemiro, who just played with Brazil in the World Cup. Speaking of Messi, I gotta ask a stupid question. Was his acquisition a bad one? The short-term answer to that is an obvious no. I mean, the Rapids sold out a game because they were playing him. Nearly every game he has played on the road has been to a local NFL stadium or even a college place. Just this year alone, Miami played LAFC at the LA Coliseum. They played DC in Baltimore, the Pids at Mile High, Toronto with their expanded World Cup seating. The year before, they played Columbus and Cleveland. Surprised they didn't play at the Horseshoe, though. Probably because of beer. And the year before, they played Kansas City at Arrowhead. And probably somewhere else I forgot. The appeal of the best player in the world playing here has so many similarities to Beckham, and how he saved MLS and brought to life the designated player rule. But even the DP contract wouldn't come anywhere close to paying the GOAT what he demands. Saudi money would have. That's why Ronaldo's there. But the people are coming only for him, not for Miami or even the local host. I think I've seen more Argentina jerseys worn than Miami jerseys. And it's not because people don't want to wear masculine colors like pink. And I don't think his presence has created a bunch of sporting Kansas City fans when they played at Arrowhead. The long-term ramifications of Messi's effect on the MLS might lead to a potential womp. Once he's gone, they're gone. At least until Miami gets Mbappe. Asking KC fans if this is a rebuild year is gonna sound more like an insult than a genuine ask. This isn't due to their fan base being agitated at the recent wave of horrendous dumpster fire after horrendous dumpster fire. This is mostly due to what was once in KC and what it has become. KC was, by all accounts, a good program in the MLS's early years. 2 MLS Cup wins, a Shield, and 4 US Open Cups. But since their last taste of silverware in 2017, there has only been one good run. A US Cup final in 2024 where they lost to Purdue Los Angeles. Oh wait, sorry, LAFC. Whenever I see black and gold, I think of the Spoilermakers. Aside from the Cup run in 2024, the only thing Kansas City has been contending for is the greatest achievement in American sport. The wooden spoon! Spoon, 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 spoon. But for the last 2 years, they had only been able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and campaign 4th worst finishes. In 2024, San Jose was just too awful to compete with, and last year they could only tie for 2nd to last. This year, the team formerly known as the Wizards are looking to pull some magic out of their hats, and the race to the bottom has only been so far somewhat a success. The only hurdle to the coveted wooden spoon has been a team far worse than them. Philadelphia Union. Designated player Dejan Doveličić has tried to usurp this destined run for awfulness, while DP Manu Garcia has done his part. On a serious note, he would be better suited for USL. To be serious, there are guys with potential coming up from the academy system though, as 15-year-old Luca Antagiorlami has been signed to an MLS contract, becoming the 2nd youngest player to play for Kansas City's 2nd team. I have no idea if he will play first team, and I was hesitant to even bring him up as teenagers in the MLS system already have a lot of pressure on them already. I mean, look at Kevin Sullivan. Obviously, they see something in him, and we'll see where it goes. While Euro snobs complain about the MLS draft and how it rewards losers, the academy system has been a lot better at bringing in good players for the league, or so Reddit says. A part of me wants to see KC accomplish an MLS Grand Slam, an MLS Cup, a US Open Cup, the Shield, and the Wooden Spoon. They are so close to greatness. Oh, and rumors are spreading that Kansas City is in talks with Mohamed Salah. This might be like how they tried to get Ronaldo. They didn't. Speaking of Purdue LAFC, I cannot think of a team that has knocked it out of the park so quickly as LAFC have. They've only been playing for 8 years and have won the Shield twice and got some silverware with the US Open Cup and the MLS Cup, not to mention only missing the playoffs once in their first 8 years. I can also mention the silver medal finishes in the Leagues Cup, CONCACAF, and the Championes. But everyone really just wants to know about the biggest name on the team, Son Heung-min. He's obviously the face of the team, the Yeon Jungkook of LAFC. Yes, he gets the attention, the captain's sleeve, and the media, but you still need a team, a workhorse, A Jimin. Look, I thought it'd be creative to compare the LAFC players to different members of BTS, but the lore is deep and I get the feeling that if I go too deep here, I'm gonna get someone mad, so I'll probably just end it there. Anyway, the workhorse in the team is fellow designated player Dennis Bouanga, while the up-and-comer who is having a breakthrough year is Venezuelan David Martinez. The season has been a terrific one, even to LAFC standards, as they made it to the semifinals in the CONCACAF and are currently placing top 5 in the West. Plus, they restart the season in MLS's biggest game, El Tráfico. The Galaxy is historically what Miami currently are, the best team money can buy. When Beckham arrived to MLS, he took his talents to Los Santos. But he is not the only elite player to be in LA. I can name off a multitude of elite player after elite player. Beckham, Donovan, El Pescado, El Matador, Golden Forma Zlatan. And this isn't even everyone who has played a part in creating the Lakers of American soccer. Hell, their most recent MLS Cup came in 2024, with now Kansas City leader Joe Velicic hitting the goal that sealed the title. But Carson, California Galaxy are the ace of MLS, and they hold the reputation with very high regard. But as far as the season is going, it's not up to standard. A lot of the players from the 24 campaign are still there. Ricky Puig, Captain Yoshida, Gabriel Peck, and Marco freaking Royce, to name a few. Something has to start clicking. It is weird though. Championship blip in between 2 seasons of bad. Reminds me of the Marlins on 03. Now, I know this is a hater's guide and that I am supposed to trash talk about each team, but let me begin with some context. Minnesota has been through a very rough patch as of recently. Harassment from Dick Dastardly and his cavalcade of Muttley has made life hell for the Twin Cities in the most incompetent way possible. And the community exhibited a more Christ-like response to the whole fiasco than the evangelicals and Pentecostals who stalk Dastardly and worship his farts. The idea of a team using the name United has a history in Europe. It was to either signify a merger between clubs, as happened with clubs like Newcastle and Sheffield, or to expand its brand identity to a broader community like Manchester United, who used to be a team you never heard of called Newton Heath. Oftentimes, the using of European, usually English, naming conventions in American soccer is perceived to be about as cringe-inducing as a Euro snob saying their favorite team is the Arsenal FC, or when you watch the US Open Cup tourney and the play-by-play announcer has to use the whole team name when calling the match. But like Atlanta and DC, I think using the name United is a symbol of the community they represent. Minnesota is historically known for hockey and gridiron football, but the soccer community is there and is larger than one would assume. I hope that people take the United name and know that it means it includes them. And anybody who calls that cringe is a freaking Muttley. Don't be a Muttley. Now, Minnesota currently sits comfortably mid-table and looks to be on the up and up as April was peak performance. Going into the break wasn't the strongest showing, but I think they are a team with potential to finish well in the conference. Designated player Kelvin Yeboah leads them in goals and will look to be back in the starting 11 post-break. Also, in the last 9 seasons, they've only missed the playoffs once, so they know how to make it to the second stage. Now they just got to overcome the quarterfinals. Montreal, the city of archaic French and the Walter Cup champions. Congrats to the Victoire. And if you know Montreal, you know that the city has a deep sports history, not to mention a deep history of winners. And the soccer team was no different. Note that I said was. I'll just sum it up like this. 5 Shields, 3 MLS Cups, 5 Canadian Championships, and a silver medal in the CONCACAF Champions League. The first Canadian team to make it to the final as well. They have also completed the MLS Grand Slam with a couple of wooden spoons. And it seems like this year isn't really any different. They currently sit within reach of the wildcard spot, but to call them a good team is like calling Scotland's first division competitive. It ain't. Their owner Saputo, at least from this outsider's perspective, seems to be in love with himself. I mean, who names a stadium after themselves? Even Jerry Jones knows to grab that sponsorship money before officially calling his Taj Mahal Jerry World. Hold on. You mean the stadium is sponsored? And that Saputo is the name of a dairy company? And it was named after Lino Saputo, who allegedly had ties to the American Mafia, which Saputo sued newspapers for defamation about in 2008, and from what I understand is currently still in court? Wow. What an impact. Also, that is way more interesting than whatever Montreal is putting on the field. Here's the team I root for, so just expect a little bit more thorough ranting, as I have been putting a lot of time in understanding this team. I want to start with how much I think Hany Mukhtar is already Mr. NSC. His drive and ability has been there since he joined, and I believe that embodies the values the city of Nashville desires. The front office has also done a great job with recent acquisition Christian Espinoza. He is not a goal scorer, but he is an impact player who makes opportunities happen. I don't know why San Jose let him go. I'm glad he's here. It also helps that the defense has been efficient with Lovitz, Eddie, Palacios, and Nehar in the back. I also cannot forget Schwake in goal, who has been super under the radar in my eyes. It would have done better for the US than Turner or Freeze. And at the least, he wouldn't have kicked grass. But all this is moot, as the star of the team is Sam Surridge. Nottingham couldn't see the forest for the trees with him and let him go. And boy, has he been a gift for Nashville. The best way I can describe him is that he has a golden foot. Nearly everything he kicks finds the back of some net. He goes to the grocery store, kicks an orange, and finds the nearest bag to land in. And 2025 was a bright signal of his ability as he booted 24 goals that year. This year, though, injury has hindered the crazy start he had, and the team showed its biggest issues without him there. Surridge covers a multitude of sins when he is on the field. Off the field, Nashville doesn't know what to do. Their game plan is to find Surridge, even though he wasn't on the field. I remember going to the CONCACAF game against Tigres and being so confused at how they were playing like he was still active. Why was there no backup plan to better utilize Madrigal or Hany or Espinoza? I think this is ultimately what created the Continental run, although to be fair, I was just happy they beat Messi in the most annoying way possible. Consider it retribution for the League's Cup final. Outside of that, I feel like following this team has been akin to a dream. It's been a shock to not just see a great start, but also a US Open Cup title and a deep run in CONCACAF. The boys in gold have been meandering in the mid-table, just above the realm of mediocrity for some time. Seeing things pay off has been weird. Last time I had this kind of hope, I watched the Preds go to the Stanley Cup, and I keep trying to forget how that all ended. At least they're playing with house money here. We'll see where this leads. The Revs are an interesting team. They started off poor, letting in 5 goals in their first 2 games, one of which I attended and deeply enjoyed. And then came the game against Cincy. They flipped the switch and went on a rampage against the Garys. A 6-1 thrashing that most likely gave Cincy wooden spoon nightmares. And after that, New England went unbeaten in 7 of their next 8 MLS games. Matt Turner started showing off, reminding everyone that he is actually contracted to Lyon, and his dominance more than likely led to his call-up for the World Cup. The team has also been pretty uniform as well. 11 players have scored for the Revolution, while Carlos Gil leads the team. There are 2 other goal scorers that could potentially overtake the spot, former Boca player Luca Langoni and homegrown Peyton Miller. The 18-year-old has been getting some starting minutes, and people think he has Europe potential. Gonna have to keep an eye on this kid. On a side note, please stop playing at Gillette. It looks so sad, and the place is ugly for soccer. The Mystic River Stadium is the closest the club has had to actually getting a soccer-specific stadium, and I think we have a higher chance of this coming to life than GTA 6 being released, or USL's Pro Rel push. You know, I was going to talk about the new stadium and how beautiful it looks, the joy that a soccer team actually plays in New York City instead of the cesspit in New Jersey, and also mock at how the team is perceived as a minor league feeder for Manchester City. Instead, I'm just going to say that New York City should just kick grass. At least it's New York grass. Nothing makes Gen Z and millennials doom scroll about late-stage capitalism more than the idea that a sports team is not only sponsored by a giant energy drink mogul, but is owned by one, and puts its branding on everything like the frickin' mouse or the buck-toothed beaver. Red Bull matters more than New York, hence the naming and why they play in New Jersey. Energy drink soccer seems to have had a rough start to the season, winning only the first 2 of its first 5 games, including a hilarious 3-0 loss against Montreal and a 6-1 thrashing against Charlotte. The losses continued to pile up like empty monster cans as Montreal continued its thrashing of the Red Bulls with 4-1 beating, not to mention losses to the Garys and the family company in Dallas. But things started to click going into the break, with Rosenball going unbeaten in their last 4, and with the lone tie coming in from grass-kicking New York City in the Hudson River Derby. The Red Bull are sitting in the mid-table for the East, but I wouldn't be surprised if they end up finishing so poorly, even Mamdani cannot fix them. He probably wouldn't care anyway, as he isn't mayor of Harrison, New Jersey. Plus, it also doesn't help that New York City got the one-up on them in the US Open Cup as well. One note of praise though, the Rosenballs have a future star in New York native Julian Hall. This 18-year-old just became the youngest player in league history to score a hat trick, and he has been with the team since he was 12. He also leads the team in scoring and was why they started the season strong. Gotta keep an eye on this kid. Oh, Orlando. MLS has proven to be way tougher on you than anyone was expecting. You are our Norwich City. Too good for USL and still nowhere close to being MLS ready. Yes, a 6-year playoff streak looks amazing on paper, but when the only accomplishment you can claim is one US Open Cup title, you make me second guess my anti-pro rel beliefs. Sure, congrats on a second place finish in the Shield race in 2023, but the only up from here mentality has dwindled. And oh my god, this season has been one to forget. You lost 5 of your first 6, bringing 5-goal thrashings from New York City and Nashville, and sealing the pain with a 6-goal meteor strike from LAFC. But even while wallowing in the pit of mediocrity, you saved yourself from a whipping against Miami. MLS's favorite really wanted to put the belt to ass on MLS's Florida man. Sadly, Michael Irvin wasn't there to help out. But something deep inside you started to boil. Must have been the monster or the bath salts. Can't really tell the difference between the two. But you came back and gave all of American soccer something to be proud of you for. The momentum from this miracle started to assist in the fight against the Spoon. At least until you had to play the Garys at TQL. Where you got obliterated worse than the Florida education system. The 6-2 loss really makes me wonder if the USL is really where you belong. At least there you can harass the Ultras at Detroit City, Sacramento, and Tampa Bay all you want. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
How does one do this?
Yes, you can.
Go from best in the league one year to the absolute worst the very next.
Yes, you can.
Forget the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns. Hell, at least the 76ers had the process to delude themselves with.
Yes, you can.
As mentioned before, the typical American method of rewarding bad teams with high draft picks doesn't work for soccer, and Philly has to rely on their academy system in order to get out of this mess. And oh boy, do they have a gem. Let me introduce you to Kevin Sullivan. The kid is 16 and is honestly playing on par with rotation MLS players. I don't want to ride the hype train for anybody who is still in high school, and as someone from the Hoosier State, I have seen high school stars falter in college and the pros way too many times to count. If Kevin is being this ambitious and driven right now, I get the feeling he'll likely turn out okay. Plus, once he turns 18, he's taking his talents to Man City, which is going to be the true test of his ability. They will quickly know if he can hold his own. At least the money is going to a good cause of rebuilding this horrific team. Oh god, they suck! Here's a team that has a fan base that is as close to Europe as we can get here in the States. The Timbers Army is the Millwall of MLS, and the team is currently likewise. 2015 was their year with their first and only MLS Cup win, but the last 2 appearances led to a 2-0 loss to Atlanta and a heartbreaker against New York City that went to penalties. The Timbers have not been able to recover since, going 2 years without a playoff appearance, and now everything is coming up Millhouse with a potential spoon chase. Rose City might be the closest thing we get to punk rock lumberjacks, but it's very far away from having good soccer, at least on the men's side. The Thorns, though, are kicking ass, as usual. Real Deseret, or Real Dirty Soda if you want to be trendy. The Storm and Mormons are taking over the West as they currently sit 4th in the conference and are tied with Chicago in the Shield race. They entered the break strong, going unbeaten in 4 of their last 5. All of this is thanks to key players like US men's national team advertiser, but not player, Diego Luna. But the real surprises come from 19-year-old Xavier Gozo and 2025 draft pick Sergio Solans. They both lead the team in scoring and are coming in hot for the Storm and Mormons. Wouldn't be surprised if they keep rolling nat 20s over there. As far as history goes, there is some, but it doesn't get much attention. The team has been competitive and has won the MLS Cup in 2009. Since that win, they've only missed the playoffs 3 times. Getting back to the cup or even a deep cup run hasn't really been in the game plan. The last 4 years has seen 3 consecutive round 1 eliminations, and last year they got kicked out in the wild card to frickin' Portland, who probably did their naked bike ride victory near the LDS temple. I don't remember that day being cold either. As far as the next MLS Cup, I think you have better odds of Brandon Sanderson releasing a book that's less than 100,000 words. The baby of MLS, and boy oh boy have they come out of the gates screaming and wailing. In their first year, they finished top of the West and 4th in the Shield race, ending the season with a conference finals appearance. Now that $500 million expansion fee seems to have already paid itself off with this type of immediate success. The designated player that put on the show was Danish player Anders Dreyer. He finished the league with 19 goals and 17 assists, an MVP level campaign. As far as this year goes, oof, it's typical San Diego. Dreyer is nowhere close to putting up the numbers he brought last year, and the team currently sits 10th in the West. What happened? April happened. The Chrome and Blue Buffoons lost their luster and went on a 5-game losing streak, and didn't get a win for the entire month. A lot of it seems to be attributed to how young the team is, as there are only 7 players on the team over 30. This young club, in more ways than one, really encapsulates the volatility of MLS as well. San Diego Union Tribune sports writer Eddie Brown summed up Los Niños pretty well here. Young players can make a club fearless. They can also make the margins feel terrifyingly thin. Side tangent, but I've been getting a bit surprised by the amount of teams that have some sort of indigenous tribal investment or ownership. The WNBA's Connecticut Sun are owned by the Mohegan Tribe of Indians. The National Lacrosse League's Rochester Jayhawks are owned by the Seneca Nation. USL Championship's Sacramento Republic are majority owned by the Miwok people of the Wilton Rancheria. San Diego FC has what could be seen as the best of both worlds: Arab money and Indian casino money, as they are under the ownership of Egyptian-British billionaire Mohammed Mansour and the Sequoian band of the Kumeyaay Nation. As a Native American myself, I do feel a little excited by the recent wave of official ownership. And let's be honest, the Seminole tribe has pretty much owned FSU sports for decades, more so than the Gators have owned them. But as someone who's registered with one of the more overlooked tribes and reservations, I don't see my tribe pushing for something like this in the near future, barring some sort of crazy financial situation or Indian casinos in the Black Hills becoming bigger than Deadwood. But there is something weirdly neat about it all. Having a local tribe own the team too probably helps hinder any thoughts of relocation, which gives me an opportunity to tell Spanos to go to hell. Oh, great. It's time to talk about the Goonies. No. Not the Gooners. That's a less disgusting discussion. Although one could easily call them that since they started back up in 2008. Can literally count all of their playoff appearances since then on one hand. And thankfully, one hand is all I need to be a San Jose fan. They started off like the Cleveland Browns, but unlike the Browns, they actually got good. Although nowadays, they're more like the Jaguars. Sparks of a playoff run, but mostly mediocre. They went the first part of the season going unbeaten in 12 of the 15 total games, losing both Heritage Cup games to the Sounders and giving us the beautiful moment that brought to life Sam Sarver against family company Dallas. The reason for their success? Preston mother-loving Judd. He has scored a goal in 9 of those 15 and is on a tear in the West. Thankfully, they won't have to deal with the Sounders beating them again until the Cup chase, but they should make a good run for the Shield and finish near top in the West, if not finish top. Also, Timo Werner is on the team. Surprised he still plays. Oh my. Talk about country roads blaring through the speakers as the men's national team puts on a show for the Emerald City and then proceeds to kick grass. The Blue Ridge Mountains are far away from Cascadia, and as an Appalachian stand, let me also humble brag about how our mountains are older, therefore better. We've had trees here as long as y'all have had ice caps. Take that, Seattle. Even as I say that, Seattle's a wonderful sports city, and the fans are on the high with the recent wave of success from the Seahawks in their Super Bowl runs. It's so good it makes them briefly forget about the Sonics. Thankfully, running the ball is also mandatory in soccer, so the worry of Tom Brady somehow appearing and ruining their day is negligible. Not to mention, the season starts back up with the Cascadia Cup race against arch-rival punk rock Lumberjacks Portland. I don't expect them to win it. Vancouver, like Pecorine, is just too good right now, but they should easily get second.
Are you sure about that?
It's the same situation for their MLS Cup run as well. They are by all means a good team. They only lost in CONCACAF's quarterfinal to Tigres by an archaic away goal tiebreaker. And got a couple of games in the bag for MLS as well. Paul Rothrock, Jesus Ferreira, and Albert Runsack. I was about to say Albert Runsack. and Albert Rusnak are the workhorses for the Sounders, which has allowed them to stay mid-table in the West. They probably will finish around the same area too, and will probably get a playoff win over San Jose and then get eliminated. Just things. MLS's second youngest baby, and already forgotten amongst the litter. St. Louis had a terrific opening season, and then proceeded to not only crap the bed, they obliterated it with weeping and gnashing of teeth. This season has been no different, and to be honest, they ain't worth talking about much until they get good. The thing that gets my attention though is that they are so young they don't even have a nickname yet. So why not try and do what I normally do? Interfere with the process by giving them a nickname myself and hopefully make it catch on over time through the greatest act of authority available, the fallacy known as appeal to subscriber count. Some immediate nicknames that come to mind are the Archies. Sure, you could say it's because of the obvious tourist trap in the city, but I think it's more because of the constant bumbling you would find in somebody like Archie Andrews in the Archie comics. Another nickname? The Rubies, as City Red is such an awful name for a color, like Electric Yellow or whatever the red of all reds that came from one of the Canadian clubs. I forget who. And the red on their crest does look like a ruby red. You could also call them the Rams, but then they would probably move to LA. Okay, I feel really bad. I genuinely forgot to write about you guys. No lie. Totally forgot Toronto even had an MLS team. And honestly, I'm just too lazy to fix it. Oh well. Aww, you thought I wouldn't mention the relocation threat, didn't you? Yes, I don't want you to leave Vancouver, even if you did suck. The Cascadia Cup ain't nothing without the lurking British Columbians ready to pounce on the Seattle fish markets and Portland's naked bike riders. Plus, playing in MLS hides a lot of issues that would become prominent financially if y'all were to resort to playing domestically in Canada. Even with Dick Dastardly and his imperialist troop of mutleys doing a lot to bolster Canadian patriotism and bagged milk sales. Look, I get it. It sucks that there is even the consideration of the Whitecaps being relocated. Feudal Lord Don Garber does this because he wants a better deal not for Vancouver, but for MLS. MLS owns a team, and they are driven by the almighty American dollar. As much as I would like to think that I would act differently, if my job was to do what Garber does, I would be just as hated as him. I know my flaws, which is why I'm not a commissioner of a sports league. I really am praying that the team stays and new ownership provides a better opportunity for everyone to flourish. Although it would be really crazy if y'all won the MLS Cup in Vancouver and were forced to relocate the following year. I can imagine that would be worst case scenario in Don Garber's eyes. Okay, so an update. Looks like the situation might be on the path of being taken care of as Vancouver looks to make a bid to run BC Place, which would grant them more avenues for revenue alongside other things. This looks positive. If you want the team to stay in Vancouver, I don't know if there are any other positives out of it Canadian taxpayer-wise, and it could also be potentially a can-kicking situation as well, as this would obviously settle the immediate move, but it would keep it still lingering for the long term in feudal lord Don Garber's massive ears. Now that all the teams are talked about, at least in an efficient way, what are my thoughts about MLS overall? Honestly, it's football. The game has come a long way and is way better than it used to be. I also enjoy the Apple TV deal as it is now. Being fully integrated into the streaming service is really nice, and having all the games available is such a joy. People complaining about the lack of Farmer 5 access I can understand, but the lack of access via cable argument I see online is such an outdated way of thinking, especially as cable and satellite services are getting cut for streaming. Wouldn't be surprised if most of the people making that argument don't even have cable anymore either. However, I get the feeling that joy I am receiving of having every game on one platform will be short-lived though. Looking through the history, I can totally see why Eurosnobs flogged themselves to watching the Arsenal FCs and the Manchester Uniteds. However, something beautiful is growing here, and I think they should at least give it another go. Yes, the best players are in England, but hopefully you see now that there are some good players here who will likely be playing there soon. And it's always nice to get that first look before they hit the big time. Hell, that's why I love minor league hockey and baseball. Not to mention, MLS prices are way more affordable than a Super 2 college football game, or hell, even the NFL. Not as cheap as USL and MLS Next Pro Max Ultra Extra Cheese Stuffed Crust, but still way more affordable. And if you go and don't like it, it's fine. Count your losses. And if you decide not to go at all because MLS is an inferior product and you cannot let your special eyes see such common filth, then saw it off, you mutley!